Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Monday Motivation Spotlight. I'm Lesley Kaplan, delighted to welcome you here again to another Monday. Yes, every single Monday we meet live. Many of you are joining live, which is fabulous, and some of you watching the recording, which is also wonderful. For those of you that are new, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about the Monday Motivation Spotlight podcast. We started 2 weeks after the war as a result of the war to give inspiration to those of us who are desperately needing it, which was most of us. And on the other hand, to give exposure to Israeli businesses, individuals, and nonprofits who are making a difference. And we're still going strong. Unfortunately, the war is still ongoing too, and we wish our hostages a safe return. So how do we work? Firstly, I'd love to thank very much our sponsors. We have wonderful sponsors, Nidus Advisors, as well as Eggert & Cohn Insurance. Thank you to them. And thank you, of course, to our wonderful speaker, who I'm going to be introducing now and spotlighting. So you stay on mute. Any comments or questions, you're welcome to write in the chat. This is not an official networking group. However, you are welcome to put your details in the chat. And stay with us through the end, because I have an exciting announcement to make at the end as well. So, Eliezer, I'm going to replace my spotlight with yours. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Who is Eliezer Blatt? Many of you know him personally. He's a world-renowned speaker, trainer. He deals with presentation skills. He's a keynote speaker, and he's had a very interesting background and career transition. For many years before he made Aliyah, he was working with award-winning TV production teams, well known to many of us, Cosby, Coke commercials, and many others. He's also worked with many prominent speakers over the years, Rabbi Warren Goldstein, Lori Palatnik, and many others who are well known to you. And he was also a player in a band, so we'd love to hear about that. And then he discovered his Judaism and his life took a different track. So in this session today, we're going to be hearing Eliezer's story, his transition, what brought him to make Aliyah. And of course, he's going to give us and share with us some of his tips for what he's well known for now in terms of public speaking and presentation. So Eliezer, good morning. Thank you so much for being our guest. Take it away. We'd love to hear from you from the beginning or whatever we can fit into this 30 minutes of inspiration.
Good morning. Thank you, Lesley. Yeah, I did my research before and I watched the show. I was sharing with Lesley before some of the other guests and I'm watching the very interesting stories. And it inspired me to see, that people share their stories. You think like, how we want to hear other people's stories. We have our own stories, but we like to hear other people's stories. It motivates us. It vitalizes us. So I watched Dr. David. Yeah, Dr. David, I put on, who's a friend of mine. His story, Jenny Sassoon, and let me see if I can say her name right, Leanne Wakabayashi.
Wakabayashi,
Yeah, from
yes.
Japan. I don't know, the people who knew probably haven't seen it, but just people have just wonderful stories that we listen to and we learn and we get ideas for ourselves going through life, how to make changes, how to pivot. So I find that when I'm going to tell my story, I'm always thinking, do people really want to hear my story? We have our own. But I think when I see that it helps and that people really enjoy and learn from it, that's what inspired me and was one of the reasons why I agreed to come and speak with Lesley Kaplan and all these wonderful people, because I think it's something, if you can take away from it, then I'll be happy. And I'll give some tools and tips after, so you'll get that too. Yeah, it's a win-win. It's great seeing everyone this morning. Thanks for sharing the breakfast time with me. Yeah, my story starts when I was in first grade. Shortest kid in the class, red hair, blue eyes, and freckles. I still have the blue eyes. The freckles we're not going to talk about. The hair we're not going to talk about. Yeah, the freckles we won't know unless I have a rotten barber. Pulled out of my first grade class. It was pre-ADHD. I mean, they had the ADHD, but they didn't call it that. I was the dreamer. So the teachers were smart enough to see that I was talented. I became the singer, dancer, actor of my elementary school, my grade school. And I was loving it, singing and dancing. I think if I was from there, I'll tell you, before I became religious, yeah, a lot of the religious boys, if they have a good voice, they try to get onto the Miami Boys Choir. I don't know if you've heard of the Miami Boys Choir, but when you get the kid who's talented, who could stand in front of an audience, I think I would have been that type of kid. But I wasn't religious yet. I wasn't in that circle. So I was singing, dancing, and acting in my grade school. And when I was 10, I decided I wanted to play the drums. I figured the drums for a little kid, cymbals all over, drums all over was pretty exciting. Any musicians out here? Put your hand. Let me see if there's any musicians here. Yeah. Elizabeth, you play piano? Yeah. How did I know? Who else? No, no. Yeah. Yosef. Yeah. Yosef, what you play a guitar? You're
All
muted.
right, they're on
Yeah.
mute, so you can just
They're on
guess what
mute.
he
Yeah. So
plays,
he's
or you can
okay. So
write
he
it in
got
the chat.
he
Guitar,
got
fiddle, banjo, trumpet.
guitar. Yeah. Different. Yeah. Yeah. How did I know? I can usually, Lesley, go across the room. Yeah. And pick them out. And people sit there and look. And I'm like, I thought that was pretty good. Like I could clear a room. The difficult ones is the woman who plays the saxophone. She's hard to get. Yeah. So I'm over there. I'm playing the drums. I'm loving it. I get into a band, and we won something called the Battle of the Bands. Yeah. Who heard of the Battle of the Bands? The best bands they play. And okay, Yosef, the musician. The best bands wins, and it was 2 hours recording time in a major studio. That's a pretty cool prize. And so we went in, we recorded 4 original tunes. Today it takes about 2 hours just to get my drum sounds. So you can imagine 4 tunes, and a producer heard us. He liked us very much. And he wanted us to be the opening act for a major rock group that was going. Now, with you guys, I don't know how many people are into music, listening to music. I mean, going back like American music. Okay, so I can speak to you guys. A lot of times when I speak to young people, they got no clue. We were going to open up for a group called Hall and Oates. Who heard of Hall and Oates? Let me know. Yeah. So Hall and Oates in the early 80s was okay, Philip, was yeah. I see Mieris. She had a big smile on her face. The biggest smile she had so far since I started speaking. People, you know what the youngsters think when I say Hall and Oates? They think that it was a breakfast cereal. It was a group, and we were going to open up for them. We did an album. I could tell you what an album is. You know, the youngsters, I tell them it's a CD on steroids. Yeah. We were going to do an album. We were going to be the first group on VH1. MTV's Mellow station. So I was going to make it. They insured my hands. They said, no more sports. And we're ready to make it. And then the singer of my band had a nervous breakdown. We were just his band. So what am I going to do now? I'm finishing up high school. I was going to be a rock and roll star. They said, you got to go to college. I said, what do I want to go to college for? They said, because when you don't know what you want to do with your life, you have to go to college. All right. So off I go to Brooklyn College, and I see they have an excellent television, theater, music department. I get involved with that. I figured I'll become a television major, do a little of everything. Finished, get up my degree, was ready to go off to LA where the shows were made. But Hashem had something different for me in mind. He put the #1 situation comedy right into Brooklyn studios. Yeah. So I walk into Brooklyn studios and I say, look, I'm just out of college, try me out. And after a week, they hired me as a writer's assistant. Great entry level position for a young guy. Walk in, and now I'm working with the best people in the business. Since I was an assistant, I was able to work with the producers and the directors, and I was on the set. I got into places on the set that usually you wouldn't be able to get in because it's very unionized. So I had a great beginning there. And I became friends with the director, who was a top director of television, Jay Sandrich. I don't know if people watched television at one time, but he was the assistant director of the I Love Lucy show. He directed Mary Tyler Moore. He was in TV talk. You know, he was something special. So I was with him, and I was learning how to do a 5-camera shoot. That's what he was specialized in. Have 5 cameras. So when you went into editing, you had 5 shots for any scene. It was pretty, I'm giving you a behind the scenes over there. So I was being groomed to make television shows, and I was going to different shows, working for Coca-Cola commercials. I worked for a show called Reading Rainbow, which was a top children's show. You heard of Sesame Street. Sesame Street teaches kids how to read. And Reading Rainbow is a show that now that they know how to read, taught them how to go and love books, to go to the library and the beauty of reading books. So I worked for them for 3 years. And my boss said to me, I'm paying a video editor a lot of money to edit my shows. Why don't I pay that to you? So he sent me to editing school. And now I figured with my production skills and learning how to edit, in those days, editing was really big. It was a little different today. Today, my 15-year-old can do on the computer what we used to do, you know, on the world's most sophisticated editing machines. So I was editing, and it was going to take me 2 years now to become an editor and work in a post-production house for my boss. Great. I'm finished my 2 years, and a side story happens. I start learning at Aish Hatorah in New York. Yeah, I started learning. I got interested in someone got me over there and learning about my taking Jewish studies. It was very interesting. And one of the rabbis said there, if you like learning here. You like once a week over here. You'll love, we have a 3-week program in Israel. Why don't you go check it out? So I said, okay, that's fine. You see, I became the rabbi of my work. I go to a class, come home, I was all fired up, come to work, and Jews and non-Jews would come around, and I would teach them. So I figured, wow, if I'm a rabbi of my work, if I go to Israel for 3 weeks, I'll become a real rabbi. Yeah. So I asked my boss, can I have my 3 weeks vacation? He says, no way. He was wondering, no one asked for 3 weeks vacation in a row. I had them coming to me. I was all ready to go to my boss from Reading Rainbow, so I didn't know what to do. So Friday came along. I was going down the steps. He was coming up and he said, Blatt, I need you to work overtime this week. Overtime tonight, you know? And I said, I can't, boss. Jewish boss, but I wasn't about to tell him that I needed to leave early for Shabbat. And you have to get home early on these early Shabbats and shower and get ready to go over there and get dressed. So I left. Sunday came and my coworker said, the boss wants to see you. What do you think's going through my head? Yeah. Great, I'm thinking. If he fires me, I collect unemployment. I go to Israel, do my thing. I come back, and my boss at Reading Rainbow is waiting for me. Great plan. I call him up. Boss, you wanted to see me? Now, usually if the employer is going to fire the employee doesn't call him up to remind him. And I thought it was a little weird. He said, I'm too busy, Blatt. The week goes by. It's too busy. Friday, I have to leave early again. He says, get up here, Blatt. I get up there. And he's pacing back and forth. He says, you're probably wondering why I didn't offer you any overtime this week, Blatt. And I'm like, great, he's going to fire me. But he says, I like you, kid. And I realized he was going to give me a raise and promotion and wanted to make me his daytime editor and work out a deal with the Reading Rainbow boss. Yeah, so I said, I'm going to stop you here, boss. I got to stop you. He says, Blatt, you don't stop someone when they're about to give you everything you ever wanted, which he was. I said, nope, there's going to be something different. I want to go learn in a yeshiva in Israel. He says, you do you? He gets up, he opens the door, he says, you want to leave? Leave. I get up, he goes, sit down, Blatt. How much is this going to cost me? I think if I wanted to do the squeeze play for a raise or promotion, I wouldn't have had the guts to do it. But this was perfect. I wanted to go, cut, let's take it from when the boss sits down the kid. And now it was no longer employer-employee, now it was man-to-man. And he said to me, I know what you're going through. I just started dating Jewish women. You go off, you go to Israel, do your thing. And when you come back, I'll have a job waiting for you. Pretty cool. So off I go, 3 weeks. I'm into Aish Hatorah. I'm loving it. And I realized after being there for 3 weeks, I was going to have to stay a little longer. And that turned into 25 years. But I went back for visits. Different story. So now I'm in Israel. I'm 29 years old. I'm older than most of the guys. Aish Hatorah takes young guys in generally after college. So I was a little older already. What are they going to do with me? After a year and a half, I get married. You know, they told me, you're no youngster, you know? So I get married. I meet a wonderful woman on one of my trips to America. We start off in Israel, and they offer me a position to be Rav Noach Weinberg's personal assistant. I get to work with a great wise man every day. So that was my job. I started doing that. But the problem was he would be away fundraising for months at a time, and I'd have nothing to do. I wanted to go with him, but he said, no. I said, let me drive you. Let me do your appointments. No. He didn't want anybody tailing him when he left the country. So what am I going to do in Israel as a Rosh Hashiva's assistant with no Rosh Hashiva? Listen to this story. A corporate public speaking guy comes in. He says, you guys are learning a lot of Torah, but you need help with your presentation skills. So I said, oh, I'll help you put together a class. What was my job? Taking the world's best talent and putting it on the screen. So working with some rabbinical students wasn't such a stretch. I started to do that with him. After a year, he left. The yeshiva paid him to teach me everything he knows on the subject. I started reading the books, listening to the tapes. Remember tapes, guys? I could talk about tapes with you guys. Going to seminars to become the best public speaker trainer I was able to. A little twist on this is I started interviewing all the English public speakers that would come around. Rav Noach Zatzal would have all of the people come, the English speakers, to come and speak to us. Rav Tauber, Rav Brevda, Pesach Krohn, you name it. If you know, the Novominsker Rebbe, whoever spoke English and was in town, he'd have them come and speak to us. And I would ask them, how does a Torah speaker, relate, to between Torah and public speaking? What can I learn from them? So I had that also. I combined the whole thing, started teaching at the yeshiva. They liked it. Then the Aish Hatorah branches started to ask me, could you come and work with our rabbis and donors and students? And when I pulled into a city, the local hospital found out about me, that had surgeons, Jewish surgeons found out, and businesses. And Ladies and gentlemen, before I knew it, I was flying around the world doing public speaking training. It fell in my lap. Rav Noach used to have a joke when I walked into his office. He said, "What do we do with this guy? Rock and roll drums, television production. Watch this." So you see what Hashem had to do, had to give me this whole background so I would make it here. And now I became the speaking guy, that's what they called me, for the Jewish world, Jewish businesses and training rabbis to go out there. And you're the reason why I love my job. I get to travel around the world, or now we do it virtually like this, and get to give over my television, not my television skill. You don't want to learn how to my public speaking skills and presentation skills, because if you can become a more effective speaker, your life becomes better. It's just the way it is. Just think about in your own lives. That person who's effective, who you want to be around, is able to speak well, becomes the leader. It's just how it is. So if that's the case, then we probably want to learn how to do it. Not probably, we want to learn how to do it better, because you want your personal and your professional life to become better as more effective speakers. So I think that's the story part. Someone had something in the chat. Let me see now. I'll go into the tips. Ah, very nice.
Toby, about your past, reading Rainbow, etc. All right, Eliezer, share with us, now that we've heard about this amazing story, and as you know, as a speaker and presenter, that your story is what gets people fired up. So you've already gotten us fired up.
Good.
So perhaps you'd now like to transition with the combination of elements from your story, maybe some of your people that you've trained, and give us some practical tips on how we can become better speakers or when presenting.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I think from my background of making television shows and being in music, I was around performers, around people I was watching. So I'm able now to give those things over. And it's so important as a trainer now. One of the things that I bring to the table, because we have speaker trainers that come from, you have actors and actresses that come from theirs. You got a lot of times I'm seeing people who they help their boss do a keynote speech or whatever. They do it once successfully. They said, hey, I could do that. And they become a public speaker trainer. I see they're popping up. When I first started doing this, yeah, there wasn't so many speaker trainers in it, but now they're popping up because people see that people really need it, and they can make a nice parnasa with it. So they're like all jumping in. So my background, of being in the entertainment business and singing stuff helped me to be in front of groups, in front of large crowds, and now I can give that over to my clients to help them to get over the fear and become more confident. So I think one of the things I'd like to talk about, and maybe we could get some stories as we wrap it, is with the fear of public speaking. I find that that's something that's a big issue that comes up that people want to know before. Eliezer, I would love to speak in public, but just thinking about it, I want to throw up. My knees start shaking, the tongue cleaves to the top of my mouth. This is what happens. So who here gets a little nervous if they have to speak? Raise your hand so I can see, because you guys are muted. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so most of it. Philip, then you didn't raise your hand. Yeah, you don't get nervous? You're okay speaking? Yeah, great. But you came online anyway to hear a public speaking trainer. Good. Most people, yeah, are a little nervous. And you know what? It's actually a good thing to be a little nervous. Yeah. Did you ever think I'll have a public speaker trainer tell you that it's okay to be a little nervous? Yeah, it is. Not a frozen nervous. Not this guy. Have you seen this guy? Welcome to my son's bar mitzvah. My son, Earl, Moshe, my son. Thank you for coming today. Oh, Moshe, my son, thank you for coming. He had to come. It's his bar mitzvah. That type of nervousness, the audience picks up on the nervousness of the speaker. If the speaker is nervous, the audience feels nervous. But if you come up and you're nervous inside, but the audience doesn't see it, it's okay. And this is a good thing. All greatness comes from a little bit of that adrenaline rush. Any great athlete, a performer, a speaker has a little bit of that anxiety to it. If you don't, when someone comes and says, Eliezer, I don't get nervous at all. It's nothing. You know what? Something's missing there. I'll give you an example. when we made television shows and we'd have an actress or an actor come on front, sometimes it would just be, they were so comfortable in front of the camera, there'd be something missing. We would add tension on the set. We would drop a stage light on purpose. Then we'd reshoot it. Yeah. And 9 out of 10 times it seemed to be better. Yeah. Or sometimes if we had an actress, we'd bring in a crying baby. For some reason, a crying baby, they reacted to that. Yeah, the crying baby, distract, do the scene again, and it would be better. When we jiggle it up and the adrenaline's flowing, and there's a little bit of anxiousness there, a positive anxiousness, that pushes it. That's where greatness comes from. I can write a whole book probably on how that adrenaline flow and greatness and having that feeling pushes people over the top as opposed to same old. So now you know you can go and say, yeah, it's okay to be a little nervous. Not the frozen nervous of the guy that I just portrayed, but a little bit nervous is okay. I had a fellow, he was so nervous. His heart was beating so strongly, he thought we were going to see it through his shirt. That's what people think, but it's okay. And you know what? When I videotape, because I use that as part of my training, and then we watch it, I asked the speaker, I said, do you look nervous? And so many times they look and they say, you know what? I felt so much more nervous inside, but when I see myself, you don't see it. And it only gets, when you work with a trainer, it only gets better. If there's something there, a nervous gesture that they're using, that's the first thing that a public speaker trainer will get rid of. But generally, you can see that it's okay to be a little nervous and use that adrenaline to go off. People say, Eliezer, how am I going to get rid of the butterflies in my stomach? I tell them I'm not going to get rid of them. I'm going to show you how to have them. Fly in formation. Yeah, it's not my original, but it works well here. So that's it now. Now you have in your pocket, you know, I feel a little nervous. It's normal. Yeah, it's good. Use that adrenaline. One way you can get rid of it, not get rid of it, but control it is breathing. Breathe into it. It puts the adrenaline in check. It helps you. Yeah, that's one way. Breathing. And there's different ways you can breathe. And my clients, we do different exercises. Another way to be less nervous is to practice. Yeah, and this will be the last way that I'll talk about a nervous. If you come up and you're speaking and you're nervous and you haven't practiced it, you don't know what you're going to say, you have a great reason to be nervous. Yeah. Well, you spend all your time thinking, oh, please, God, help bring down what I have to say. No. Practice, 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 practice. You know, you're lucky. When I first started teaching this, I had 9 Ps. Prior proper practice prevents performance of the person putting on the presentation. That's what I used to have. But now I made it easy for you. I use 3s. Practice, practice, practice. When you know what you're going to say, then when you come up there, you're not thinking about your content because you practice it so many times. Now, when I come up and speak and I'm well prepared, I can use all my energy to say, how can I get this inside my audience? How can I take what I'm giving over and sharing with you now into you because I'm not thinking so much about the content because I practiced it and have it down. So it's okay to be a little nervous. We got time for another tip.
Mm-hmm. And we actually have a question too. Do you do a Jewish version of the Dale Carnegie course?
It's not a Jewish version, I think, of the Dale Carnegie course, but I'm sure. I mean, when you talk about confidence, I don't Dale Carnegie. You put your hand through a board, you know, and you do stuff like that. I won't do that type of stuff. They're working more on confidence. I'm working on presentation skills and public speaking, and through public speaking, it's a great way to build up your confidence. But the Dale Carnegie is general. They have a public speaking course. I actually took their highest level public speaking course because everyone says you have to see Dale Carnegie. You have to see Dale. So I went to them, see what they had to offer, so I could bring that in. But it's it has some of the same ingredients, but I'm bringing a whole. I'm focusing on presentation skills and mindset and how to be confident up there and what to do on the stage and how to do a TED talk or a keynote speech. Or people, I'll get phone calls from people say, Eliezer, my daughter's getting married and I'm petrified and I was told to call you. Do you want me to go to Israel? Or you want to come to England? These are the kind of calls I get to help people. I want you to give you another tip before I leave. And we mentioned 3s, practice, practice, practice. I want to talk briefly about the magic 3s. We have 3s in our Judaism and the Yiddishkeit all over the place. We have 3 steps up when we daven, 3 avos, 3 forefathers. Yeah, we have 3 holidays, 3 main holidays, Threes are all over the place. Yeah. The Maharal brings heavy-duty things on why we remember threes. He uses Pirkei Avos, ethics of our fathers, he said three things, and he said three things. People remember threes. So whenever you give a talk, try to have three main points. Yeah. How many times have you gone to a speech? What did he say? I don't know. I like to talk, but I don't know, because he said too much. Yeah. You can't drink from a fire hose. If you have too much information, it just goes out. Yeah. So more than three is harder. What about 2 points? What? I just got 2 points after watching him for an hour? I feel cheated. 3 is the magic number. So whenever you can, try to have 3 points. What did he say? Bump, bump, bump. Yeah. Now, I don't want you to go out there leaving and saying, if you're teaching the 7 habits of highly successful people or about the 613 mitzvahs, don't say that Eliezer said I can only do 3 of them. Yeah. You get stuck over there. But whenever you can, try to break it up into 3s. People remember 3s. Yeah. So that's why practice, practice, practice. Yeah. That works. I designed my whole structure of my public speaking class in 3s. And I have people 15 years later come to me and say, Eliezer, I remember, bump, bump, bump. Okay, the details might change, but they remember the main thing. Yeah. So what do we have today? It's okay to be a little nervous. Yeah. Eliezer says it's okay to be nervous. I feel nervous. It's okay. You want to channel that and bring out your best. And try to use 3s when you talk. I mean, I have a whole semester that I work at YU of public speaking information, and I'm working with clients for years on, there's a lot to learn with it. So don't think, people say, what can I learn from public speaking? Either you have it or you don't. It's not true. You can learn how to do it better. You can have a coach who can help push you over the top, and that will make your life better, because the person who stands in front is the person who leads. And I'll end with one proof of that. When I finish speaking, people come up to me and they ask me questions that have nothing to do with what I just spoke about. Why is that? Because if you're standing up there, yeah, you might have had this experience. They think if you're up there and you're a confident speaker, you know everything. That's what they think, because that's what effective speaking does. So if you want to get more out of your life professionally and personally, and have people are around you, you want to learn how to be able to bring out and speak more effectively. I think that was actually
Okay.
half hour, Lesley.
Right, no, absolutely. As I said to you, that a half hour goes very, very quickly. So obviously there's a lot more that you can tell us. How do people get hold of you, Eliezer? What's the best way for them to reach you?
Okay, so one way is you can go to LinkedIn. Yeah, Eliezer Blatt. You'll find me. That's how most people find me now. I don't even need a website anymore. You go over there, and that just like tells you everything. I don't need like the bells and whistles over there, because I find they go over there. It tells what I do. Word of mouth, people know me. Or you can email me at eblatt6, EBLATT 6 @gmail.com. Those are two. You know, people tell me, Lesley, sometimes I tried to get a hold of you. I couldn't get. I'm very easy to get a hold of, either through LinkedIn or my email address. So.
Right, exactly. You do have a Facebook profile, but as we discussed, you're not so much on Facebook. So if you want to get hold of Eliezer, go to LinkedIn and or email him at the address that he mentioned. Amazing. Eliezer, thank you so much for being a very entertaining and a fabulous guest on our Monday Motivation Spotlight. We've met in person, we've met online, and I look forward to having more connection with you in the future. Thank you to all of you who are listening to the Monday Motivation Spotlight, whether you're joining live or whether you're listening to the recording. I'm Lesley Kaplan. Thank you once again to our sponsors, to Eggett & Cohn Insurance, as well as to Nardis Advisors. So for those of you who were linked on from the beginning, I said you stay till the very end because I have an exciting announcement to make. So I don't normally announce this, and actually this is the first time that I'm doing it. Many people have said to me, Lesley, when are you going to be the spotlight? You are behind all these other spotlights. So I'm happy and emotional to share with you that next Monday is actually my 60th birthday. And when I saw that my birthday fell on a Monday, I thought, well, I'm still going to be doing the Monday Motivation Spotlight. So maybe I'm going to answer the questions that everyone's asking. When are you going to be the spotlight? So please join me next Monday, same time, same place, same link. I'll send you details in the chat and via email for my 60th birthday bash, where you'll hear a little bit about who Lesley is behind the scenes and many things that you didn't know about me. So thank you again,
Lesley, can I say one more thing before we go?
Yes, sure.
One more thing that someone asked me, they said, Eliezer, you gave us 2 tips. where's the third? And you know what?
I saw that, yes.
And it's good that happened. You know why? Because now you can see when you only give two, you kind of like leave a little bit. Anybody who contacts me, yeah, when you contact me from being on the show, I'll give you a third. That's fair enough. I'll give you a third tip. Yeah, I got plenty, plenty of them. So anybody who feels they want that third, get in touch with me. Yeah, either through my LinkedIn or my email, and I'll give you that third.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. Yes, I did see that, and I thought maybe we are not going to have time for that third tip, so that is why I didn't actually add it. And just one last announcement too. Next week we have a double event. Besides my birthday bash and the Monday Motivation Spotlight, I have our friend Debbie Z here, Debbie Zilberman, who she is going to be coming up as a panelist on a fabulous event on March 26th in the evening with Drew Cohen as well. On e-commerce, you've received details, you'll receive more details, so make sure you join us for that as well. Thank you once again, Eliezer, for being a fabulous guest. Thank you to all of you for joining. Am Yisrael Chai, may we have a good, safe, peaceful week, seeing the return of our hostages speedily. See you next week. Have a great day. Thank you.